We're going to start on time. Welcome to our new knowledge workshop. Today's workshop is on Excel. This will be the beginner's class, and later on this year we're going to have the intermediate follow-up. We are thrilled today to have one of our very own, Nancy Fairbaugh, who wears many hats. She is the technology person for the Washington County Chamber of Commerce, but today she's going to be teaching Excel, which she does for Virginia.
All right, as Kathy said, what we want to do today is kind of take a look at some basics with Excel. And I've got some notes written down for what I kind of want to get accomplished or what I want to do. But I guess what I'd like to hear is just real quickly, because I know we're limited on time, but what are some things, you're investing an hour and a half of your day. What are some topics that you've got on your mind, or what brought you here today? Anybody?
One thing I would like, maybe simple, but like if I have two spreadsheets that I need to merge together, I haven't figured out how to put them together accurately.
What do you mean by merge?
Like if I need all the information from two separate sheets on one.
But are you trying to merge? Are you trying to add totals and bring them forward, or are you just trying to take data from one and put it on the other?
Right.
Take data from one and put it on the other? All right, we can probably touch on that. Okay. What else? Any other topics? Anything else?
I think the formulas in the spreadsheets are what
Okay. All right. We can
people
touch
are
on
looking for. Some of the formulas that when I click on the formula bar, I'm like, what does that mean? What can how can it help me?
Okay. All right.
That's one area that I had a problem with, trying to get your columns to add totals.
All right. We'll take a look at that. We'll do some calculations. Anything else? Your hot sheet. All right. I'll go ahead and we're going to take a look at going to take a look at some Excel spreadsheets. Okay. Do you hit a refresh or something, or?
What do you know? Jennifer,
Try hitting.
I know what Jennifer has to.
Do matches?
There's a setting in here that has to be.
No, it was up there before. I mean, I don't know what would have changed anything. Yeah, but it was up there.
Yes.
How about, Kathy, how about everybody go around there and introduce themselves while she's getting it going? That way we can see who's here and kind of get that synergy going. You want to start here and introduce yourself and who you're with?
My name is Matt. I work up at Hartwood, up the front desk.
Good to have you.
Pat Caleb, Caleb Realty.
Darren Brawley, Commissioner of Revenue for Washington County.
Trish Byington, Washington County Commissioner of Revenue.
Trish Cheney, Washington County Library.
Sharon Stevens, Countryside Realty.
Deborah McCroskey, the Bristol Herald Courier.
Oh, excellent.
I'm Jody Williams, and I'm moving to the area, and I'm looking for a new opportunity.
Linda Rouse, I'm the treasurer for the town of Damascus.
Katie Lamb, owner and designer at Man Little Tree Studios in Valerie called out.
Lowell Fry, AAA Printing.
Okay, we get everybody?
John Hagee, Clearview at Russell County Medical Center.
Jill Smeltzer, Clearview, Russell County Medical Center.
Elizabeth Lowe, I'm on the Washington County School Board.
Nina Farmer, Washington County Chamber of Commerce.
Kathy Lowe, many hats.
And I'm Jennifer Davis, and I'm the administrative assistant here.
And thank you, Jennifer.
You're welcome.
Yes. Okay. If we look at this particular spreadsheet, again, I'm just going to use this for a couple of things, and you all can decide, again, how it applies. If you look at this spreadsheet, though, and the thing to keep in mind about spreadsheets is everything has its place, okay? The saying of a place for everything and everything in its place, that's absolutely true with a spreadsheet. When you're looking for information or when you want to access information, where you're located is a lot more important to Excel than anything else. And if you look at the upper left corner there, it says B4. Okay, if you're looking at a spreadsheet, the cell address is going to be the intersection of the column, and it's going to be the intersection of the row. And the columns are all letters. It goes way out, and the rows are numbers. The rows will go up to 1,000,000. The columns will go up to like 64,000 or something. I mean, it starts over at AA and BB, and then it goes all the way out to like XIV or something like that. So anyway, anytime you're looking at, and you'll notice again as I move this along, okay, anytime I change, okay, now I'm in location and I'm in location C7, okay? So again, you can do a sanity check on, where are you? But when you get to writing formulas, the address of the data is a lot more important than actually what the data is, because Excel is going to take care of what you do with the data. But where the data is becomes very important. All right, across the top, we have home, we have insert, page layout, formulas, data, review, and view. Back in 2007, they revamped all of the Office programs, and we now have tabs. And then the bars that go across are called ribbons. So every time I click a different tab, and the Home tab has the most commonly used features. And that's true of every Office program. So if you're going to do some formatting, if you're going to do some alignment or whatever, all of that's going to be found along this particular ribbon. Okay? You go into page layout, the ribbon changes entirely, and it changes entirely because there's whole different features that you can do under page layout. So again, I'm not sure if any of you would be on 2003 or earlier. If you are, those are the drop-down menus, okay? If you go to 2007 and come forward, you're always going to be dealing with the ribbons.
If you input from an old Excel into a new one, can you do that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. If you have 2010, 13, and you want to open up an old 2003 or an old 2000 or 97, whatever, okay, it will open it up. It'll tell you that you're in compatibility mode. And then when you go to save it again, it will ask you if you want to save it with the new features, if there's any new features, okay? The one thing that you can't do is reverse. You can't be in 97 and try to open up 2013. It's going to come up and say unrecognizable format. Now, one thing you can do if you're in a newer version, okay, but you're going to be sending it to someone who has an older version, there's a nice feature called Save As. You can do a drop down and save it as an older version.
And then keep your
original, yes. Okay. Okay, so again, just to point out, we're not going to cover all the features, we're not going to cover all the tabs again. There's a limit on all the time. But just a couple of things. Do you all work with data that is text oriented? Name, address, city, state, whatever the case may be. Okay. All right, so if I'm looking at this particular one, okay, what's something that you could think of that you might want to do with this particular spreadsheet to make it a little bit more meaningful?
Organized by last name,
okay.
Alphabetical order.
Absolutely. Okay. So, excellent topic. Over here, there's a little button over here. It says Sort and Filter. Okay. Now, if I'm only going to do one column, I can easily use that particular feature. So, what you want to do is you want to be in the column that you want to sort. Okay? And then when you go over to your particular button over there that says Sort and Filter, if you click it, it's going to give you an option. It's going to give you the option of do you want to sort ascending, which is A to Z, or do you want to sort descending, which is Z to A. Okay, we'll assume it's A to Z. So I'm going to come over and I'm going to click sort A to Z. And now if I look at this, okay, what I should have now is I should have this in order by last name. Everybody agree with that? Everybody good with that?
So that later programs moves everything at one time and you don't have to select everything?
You have to be, no, what you have to do is just be in the data itself. Back in the old days, yeah, you had to select the range first, okay? You also need to be really careful. You don't want to just select the column and then sort, or it will only sort the column. It won't sort the rest of the data. So you either select all the range or let Excel do it for you, okay? Does that make sense? Okay, now, if I look at Hutchins, what do you notice about the first names of Hutchins? If I just sort the last name, what happens? It's the first, can y'all see back there? I'm sorry, it's not probably great. But what happens with the first name? Yeah, okay. And keep in mind, we only told it to sort the last name, right? So what we're having right now is, if I did want it by last name and then first name, okay, you have to go to a different particular way to sort. And you're going to do that by using the data command, or the data tab. And with the data tab, you don't have to be anywhere in particular. You can be anywhere you want to, because you're going to tell it what to sort. Okay? So I'm going to go to my data tab, and then there's a button up there that says sort. So if I click on the sort button, which is up here. All right, now there's a couple of things. When you go to this particular window, over there it says my data has headers. You want it to be able to read the tops of those columns, because that's what has set up the name. I have an identification, I have a first name, last name, street, city. So what you want to do is you want to be able to read that. And you do that by clicking that check mark. If you don't have that, if it's not checked, it's going to be column A, column B, column C, so it's really difficult to keep track of. All right, it's already set up for last name because I was in last name. But I want to do a second level. I want to do a second sort, so I'm going to add a level. And when you add a level, then again, Excel is really smart. Excel helps you all it can, okay? It is one of the most user-friendly, user-interactive programs I think Microsoft has, okay? So these are all the choices. So the next thing that I want to add to is I want to add to first name. So I'm going to come back and click on first name. So it says I want to sort my last name. I'm going to sort both of these A to Z. Then I'm going to go back and I'm going to sort by first name. All right. And I'm going to click OK. All right. And when I do that, everything else stays the same. But now if you do have first names that are for the same last name, they're now in order. Okay. So you can do one column sort anywhere you want to. If you want to go into 2 columns or 3 columns or whatever the case may be, you've got to go to the data feature and use your sort from there. Does that make sense?
I have a question about that.
Okay.
Have you had files that misplaced alphabetically people's names? I had one last week like that. And I had no explanation, no special characters, no blanks, no spaces.
I'd have to see it. I mean, seriously, you know, would I expect this to put a name out of place? No, no way. These should be sorted by last name and then by first name.
Okay.
Yeah. Again, I know you said there was no special character, there was no blank, but if it's out of place, Excel will always sort special characters, and then it will go to alphabetic, and then
the last name sorted correctly, the first name did not.
Again.
Okay.
I'd have to see it. I have to look at the data because I can't answer. Would I expect it to happen? No. No.
You've not experienced that?
I'm not. Not unless it was something there that I didn't know about. Okay, we put this in order by last name, then we went back and put it in order by first name. You can also come over, again, you can sort by the doctor ID. So So it just depends on what you would do if you were looking at this particular spreadsheet. Okay, as to what you could do. Does that make sense? All right, any other questions on this one?
So Nancy, if somebody, to get back to this gentleman's question, if somebody had a space in front of the first name that wasn't really obvious, instead of being all the way to the left, would that missort?
Yes, because the space is a
No
character.
special characters, no spaces.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not arguing. I'm just saying I'd have to see it.
I was just answering.
Yeah, but I'm just saying if there's something that's going to force Excel to make a decision, and that's all Excel's doing. Excel is comparing as it goes through. You know, where is it? All right, I just changed that and I put 2 spaces in front of it. If I go back and sort this again and again, I'll just do it quickly with the sort and filter over here. Okay. It moves it up. A special character space, anything like that's going to sort out first. Then it's going to sort by letters, and then it's going to sort by numbers. Again, that would be the only thing I can think of if there's something sitting there. Did you import it from somewhere, or is this data that you've actually?
Oh, it was sent to me by a customer.
Okay.
And everything else, it was 134 names. Everything else was in place. And the odd thing, I expected, okay, if you put a space in front of it, it would move it up. But it took one that was supposed to be second in a series of about 7 or 8 and put it last, which was really odd. ASCII-wise, it just didn't make sense.
Send me the file. I'll look at it. Just out of curiosity. All right, let's move on and look at some numbers. Okay? A couple of things I wanted to point out. If you look at this, the very first thing you see, have you ever gotten a spreadsheet and you get pound sign, pound sign, pound sign? Okay? I know some of you are shaking your head. What's that tell you?
Columns to 0.
Right. First off, it's not an error. It's a warning. All it's saying is this column is too narrow for me to display the values. And since I don't know what value you want, I'm just going to give you a warning. The warning is I can't display. Okay? There's a very quick way to resolve the issue. And if you will move you put your cursor so that you get a 4-headed arrow and you get it between those 2 columns. Can you see what I'm showing? Okay? All you're going to do is double click very quickly. And if you double click very quickly, okay, it automatically expands to the widest width. Okay? So if you get pound sign, pound sign, pound sign, it just means I can't display your values. A lot of times that will happen if you take a number and then you start applying formatting. And when you apply the formatting, then it can't display the $sign, the comma, the 2 decimal places, or whatever. So again, a very quick way to do that is going to be to just very simply double click, and that always expands. Okay, if you look at this spreadsheet, and again, because I've got it
vertical and horizontal both.
Right. If you had something that was too small, if you come up between those 2 for the row, double click, it will also expand. Yes, good question. Yes, row and column. All right, we have some income here. We're going to add that up. We have expenses. We're going to add that up. And then we're going to calculate the net income or loss. Okay, so we'll do a calculation. All right, I'm on the Home tab, and at the end of the Home tab out there, there's something that looks like a Greek sigma. Does everybody see that? Okay. All right, that's called an auto sum button. And if you want to use the auto sum, which is exactly what that's going to do, you want to have your cell locator at the place where you want the answer to be. Okay? So I'm in location. Actually, what location do I have my cell locator in right now? Can you see? B8. Intersection of column B, row 8. All right, very quickly, if I choose to sum, and remember I said that Excel Excel is probably one of the most user-friendly, user-interactive programs they make, okay? Access, not so much. Word leaves you hanging every now and then. But Excel is very visual. It tells you exactly what it's going to do. It is telling you right now, there's a moving outline around those 3 numbers. It's telling you right now that it is going to add those 3 numbers up. It's going to sum. So if that's okay with you, you can hit your enter key or you can click the check mark. And the check mark is up here. Okay? So again, what we have is now, and Kathy mentioned the formula bar. The formula bar is what shows you the contents of a particular cell. If it's text, it will actually show you the text. So computer tutoring in A5, that's going to be reflected up in the formula bar. Even though it's called a formula bar, it's going to show you what's in the cell. However, if you're working with a formula or a function, which is what this is, it's not going to show you the answer, it's going to show you what's in there, okay? Now this says equal sum, it's got a parentheses, it's got B5, it has a colon. Anytime you see a colon, that means inclusive. So it's going to sum from B5 through B7, okay? All right, and again, just to show you, I know August, again, if I just click the sum, I automatically get the sum. Okay, I don't even have to do the drop down. Again, I'm in location C8. It's going to sum from C5 through C7. Again, you can hit if you hit the enter key, that's fine. Again, if you hit the enter key, you just drop down 1. If you click your check mark, you stay in location. All right. Let's go back 1. All right, this one is sum B5 through B7. If I move over 1, it tells me I'm going to sum up C5 through C7. So logically, as I move across, I'm going to sum up D5 through D7, right? Okay. There's a feature that you can use that will copy this formula. And to very easily copy that formula, you're going to get a black plus sign on the lower right edge of that cell. You're going to click and hold, and you're going to drag. So if I click and hold, and I drag, okay, if you look at this, Excel makes that change for you. Excel says you're in D8, you're going to sum D5 through D7, and when you drag that over, it's going to save you from having to replicate that particular formula every time. Okay? Am I good with that?
Is this just in the latest Excel?
Yeah, that's been around for a long time. Long time, yeah. Now, when you're summing vertically, Excel is always looking to sum above, okay? Also, you can sum across, same thing. This is the total income for July, total income for August, total income for September. All right, now we can go horizontal, and we can get the quarter total for the different types of income. Okay, but I want you to watch, okay? All right, so I'm in location E5. I'm going to sum. Excel's smart, okay? It recognizes computer tutoring as a text, so it doesn't try to include it, so it stops there. It's going to sum from B5 through D5. That's exactly what I want. And I'm going to click my check mark. And I'm going to come down to location E6, and I'm going to sum. And it's going to go across. And then I'm going to come down to location. Okay. Now, do you remember me saying pay attention to what Excel's doing? Okay. If I just click the check mark, what happens here? Sum is wrong. Because Excel always tries to add vertically first. By default, it's always going to look above. So in this particular case, there's 2 values above there, and if you just click your check mark, and I tend to tell people they get click happy, So if you're click happy and you just click that check mark, yeah, you've got a number, but it's not going to be the correct one. So in this particular case, you have to look at what Excel's doing, and you want to reroute it. And very simply, you just start with location B7. You click and hold and drag across so that you go to D7. So basically, you say, no, Excel, that's not what I want you to do. I want you to go this way. And again, all you have to do is glance at your screen. Just make sure that you stay in sync with what Excel's doing.
Hey Nancy, we've got a viewer wants to ask a question. Why would information you copy not paste to another page correctly?
It depends on what you're trying to copy. If you're getting like a # reference error, that means you're trying to copy something that you can't then paste over to another spreadsheet. Okay. Okay. And again, the point of this is I wanted to show you what happened. I can easily drag this formula down, so I can copy this down. Okay, so let's go down and do total expenses. And again, we have several expenses here, and we're just going to add up the columns just like we did. So I'm in location B22. And again, I'm going to click my auto sum button, and I'm going to click the check mark. And then in the interest of time, I'm just going to copy this over, because they're all going to be copied equally. And same thing up here. Okay. Again, notice as soon as you go horizontal, it stops. It's not going to pick up your text. And then again, I'm going to click the check mark. Okay, and I'm going to copy it down again. Okay. So all of these again will be copied. And if you look at any of these particular ones, the sum, the formula for the sum is always there. All right, now before we go any further, I'm doing everything on sum. There's several other functions that you can use very quickly. Are anybody interested in seeing how you would do an average?
Yes.
Okay, all right. All right, so instead of total, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to type the word average. Okay? All right, so, and I'm going to, all right, so what I want is I want the average of those three particular types of income for the month of July. Okay. Now, where we did the drop down first, I'm in location B9, and if I do a drop down, keep in mind I can do a sum very quickly, I can do an average, I can count the elements, I can find the maximum value, I can find the minimum value. All those functions work pretty much alike. So I'm going to click average. Now you also, in this particular case, you've got to watch what you're doing. What is wrong with what Excel is going to try to do here?
It already included the total.
You've included the total. So if you let it include the total, it's going to skew your answer. So again, what you want to do is you want to take your mouse and you're going to scroll over those first three values. So you take control of the mouse, you take control of what Excel's doing, and it's going to average from B5 through B7. Everybody good with that? And I'm going to click the check mark. And we get a repeating decimal, so it's roughly 2,467. Okay. And if you want, we'll go back and play with formatting in a few minutes. Okay, easily I can drag this across, so I don't have to sit here and repeat that. Okay, but in every instance, it's the average function, okay, and keep in mind, because I'm copying the formula that I started with, okay, it automatically just copies those three values for each of those particular columns. Okay? So those are your averages. You can do the same thing with max. And let's drop down to expense. Let's go down and find it. just to show you that. All right, maybe you want to find what's your maximum expense, what's your biggest value, which again, unfortunately, this one is going to be the same value. I'm going to use the same type of function, except I'm going to click max. Max just says it's going to look for the largest. It's going to look for the greatest value in that column of numbers, wherever you happen to be. And again, I'm going to reroute what it's doing because I don't want total expenses to be included. So it's going to look for the maximum value from B11 through B21. And again, click your check mark. Okay. And again, I'm going to copy this over. And because 1500 standard. Okay, but just so that you can also see the power of Excel, keep in mind that this is a function, it's a formula. It's already built in. So I'm going to come up here and I'm going to make this. All right. And watch as soon as I hit the enter key. Watch what happens to this value, that value, and the value on the row. Okay, so I just now changed that value. I'm going to hit the enter key. Okay, it automatically goes back and recalculates anything that you have there as a formula. So the new max is 1675. That's your new total, and if you read out, that's the new total for them.
What should I look for in the spreadsheet when it doesn't automatically recalculate? I have to go actually click in the formula and hit enter again. I mean, some of my spreadsheets automatically recalculate like that, but some of them I have to go back to the formula and hit the check mark.
It's an option setting that's probably under your file and options, and I'll be glad to look at it after. If you've got it with you, I'll be glad to look at it or show it to you. Okay. But you have to go into file options, and then under calculation, if for some reason someone changed automatic to manual, then you can also press F9. F9 will recalculate automatically. Or again, if you go back and...
Okay, and that would make sense because these are coming to me from other people. So I've got one person likes to do it one way and another likes to do it the other way.
Right, so someone has...
What am I doing?
But I'll be glad to show you here. But again, if someone has turned off automatic calculation, that'll do it.
Okay,
yeah.
Sweet.
F9 will always update. Our manual will do exactly what you said. You just have to go back and redo it. Okay, so again, I just wanted to show you. If you're not familiar with Excel, the reason that you place things in rows and columns and then use the addresses would be every time that contents of that address changes, Excel recalculates. If you added up those numbers by yourself and put them in Excel, it's not going to recalculate for you. So again, you want to make sure you're using the reference to the values. All right, I'm going to undo that change and put it back. Okay, we're getting ready to write our own formula, but keep in mind what we did for total income and average income. We used the function that's already built into Excel. For the expenses, we did functions that are already built into Excel. But now we're going to calculate using the total income and using total expenses. We're going to write our own formula. Everybody good with that? All right, for those of you that already use formulas, what does a formula need to start with? Equal. Formula has to start with an equal. And the reason you do that is to tell Excel, hey, there's a formula coming. This isn't text. Okay? If you don't have the equal, you'll come up with B5 plus B6, and that's all you're going to see. So if we start with an equal, all right, again, net income, whether it's a positive or a minus, again, it's going to be the income minus the expense. In my opinion, the easiest way to write a formula is to use your mouse. So total income is located where for July? B8. Okay? Now you can type B8, but you can also very easily click B8. So we have up here, it's going to be B8. We're going to subtract, so that's a minus. All right, and we're going to subtract what? The location of B22. On the sheet, and there's a rename function also. We'll do the same thing. So it depends on what you like, whether you like to use your double click or use your right click. Either way works. Okay, I'll show you what you can do. I'm going to come back to financial, and let's say what you want to pull is, we're going to pull QuickBooks Consulting, and we want to pull that quarter total forward.
Okay.
Whether that's what you look at. All right, basically I'm just going to copy the text. I'm going to move over to May, and I'm going to put it in location A2. All right. Again, you can do Control-C, Control-V, or you can do copy paste from the toolbar. Either way works. All right. Now, if you want this set up, now, just so you know, here's another question. QuickBooks Consulting, again, if I want to expand this, again, I just double click. All right, now I can do two different things. I can copy and paste it, but if I want to make sure that I always see any changes, I got to go back and get it, okay? I can't just copy and paste it. So in May, I'm going to click in B2. Go back to financial. I'm going to come back over to May. I'm going to hit my equal sign, all right? And then I'm going to come back over to financial, and I'm going to click that actual value. All right? So now in location B2, if you'll look at the formula bar, I don't just have the function. And can you see that? Okay. What you're seeing is equal financial exclamation point. That's the name of the sheet, okay, because it pulled off financial. And the location it found it in was E7. Okay? And notice that the value is $12,375, right? Okay. So by doing it that way, if I come over and August all of a sudden is 7,000, notice that this total is now 15,250, and notice now that that total is 15,250.
Would you do that one more time?
I can.
If you could put equal.
Okay, let's go back and we'll pick up computer tutoring. Again, I'm just going to copy the text so it's quicker than, whoops. It's quicker than. All right, so I'm going to put this in. All right, so in the location where you want to actually have this value brought forward, first off, you're going to do an equal because, again, an equal tells Excel that there's something coming. You're going to click back on the financial tab, and we're going to click the location that you want to bring forward. And by the way, you can do this as a, you can copy and paste it, or not copy and paste, but you can do that whole column if you want. Okay. So again, over here under May, I'm just going to click. So now what we did is we brought that forward, but we brought it forward in such a manner that if the value changes, okay, if the value changes, the value on that sheet's going to change.
And that'll change also even if the document is not open? It didn't change.
Well, now you're in the same document. You're not pulling from one worksheet to another. You can do that too. But
Well, if like you were computing this one document and then the other document is closed.
well, this is the same file.
Oh.
These are these are 3 spreadsheets. You can have up to 256 spreadsheets
In the same
in the
file.
same file. The file's open. Now you can do what you said too. You can also set up external links, but that's kind of like way beyond.
Next session.
Yeah, next session or even advanced, yeah. But anyway, very simply, if you want to maintain the values as they change, you need to pull them forward and basically just reference that with your pointer. Okay? Good question. Other questions, comments? Kathy, any questions on your part for formulas?
I've learned these things that I'm going to have to try before I have more questions.
Yes, and that's true, by the way. Absolutely. How about you mention formulas? Any?
That's good.
Okay. Formatting, I don't want to take time. I mean, do you all know how to center, bold, italicize? I mean, I can quickly go through that. Anybody want to see that? Or everybody good on formatting?
Is it possible to change the A, B, C, D names of those columns, like the Gantt tab at the bottom, or are we stuck with A, B, C, D forever?
you're stuck with A, B, C, D until Excel developers decide they're going to do something different. That, and again, you're not really referencing, well, you know, keep in mind, everything is based on the address. But you're more than likely, you're not going to talk about column C, you're going to talk about August, or you're going to talk about September, yeah.
So if click on, let's just say, click over there on F5. Oops. And then, you know, there's this whole array of different ways to formulate things. If you click on equal, and let's just, if you start writing in the S as in sun, you'll get a whole bunch of different.
It'll give you every function that starts with S, yes.
Well, I guess the question is, how do you understand, are some of those functions more efficient for, you know, the type of thing you're doing than
True. And the only reason, the only answer to that is yeah. If you're trying to calculate based on a loan and the number of months you're going to borrow money for and what the percentage is, there's a function called payment. But you only need that if you're trying to calculate that. If you are trying to calculate the standard deviation of those numbers, there's a function for standard deviation. I mean, the functions are there, but you've got to have a reason to use them.
So just put equal and then, I don't know, put S in and let's see. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I mean, here, you know, but again, it goes back to these exist, but yeah, there's got to be a reason to use them.
Right.
Okay, you know, you have to pick the one that's going to make sense for what you're trying to do at that particular time.
Like the one that always well, all of them confuse me, but let's just say sign. If you click on that sign, what is that?
Here?
I mean, how do you find out what those are?
I'll show you.
Okay.
All right, do you see this little FX right there? If you go way back in your math days, do you remember the function, f of x? Okay, that stands for insert function. So I'm in location F5, okay? And I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to insert a function. Excel has at least 300 functions built into it. If you use the f of x, this will go through, and every time you click on a function, it will tell you what it does and how to use it. All right? So if sign basically is going to come up, and it says the sign of a number. It says returns the sign of a number, 1 if the number is positive, 0 if the number is 0, or a -1 if the number is negative. So if you're doing some type of development in a spreadsheet, and you need to know, is this a number that's positive or is it negative, you can test the sign of the number, okay? Then you have to have something to do with that. So it would be, if this value is negative, I want to do this. Or if this value is positive, I'm going to do this. But when you go into the function, it will always tell you what it's going to do. And it also tells you the values that you need. If I go back up to payment, which is PMD, again, if you wanted, and again, I don't know if you can see this real well from the back, but the function payment calculates the payment for a loan based on constant payments and a constant interest rate. You have to give it the rate, you have to give it the number of periods or the months, you have to give it the present value of that particular loan that you're doing, and then it will calculate a payment for it.
Well, let's do that.
Okay. Okay. What's my percentage?
4.25.
Just hypothetically. Okay. Now let me point out something. If you're using this function, 4.25 is what type of an interest rate?
4.25%.
It is, but it's annual, right?
Right.
you're calculating monthly payments. So let me give you a big caution on this one.
That's right.
You need to divide by 12 or you're going to have a really large number, okay?
Right.
So you need to divide by 12. So it's going to be divided by 12, which is going to drop it down so that now we have a monthly. Okay, for how long did you particularly want to borrow that money?
Say 5 years.
60 months. Everything's in months, by the way. Keep in mind, if you're using this function, you got to be in a monthly. So if it's 5 years, that's 60 months. And just how much did you want to borrow?
45,000.
Yes. All right, so we've given it. Now, the future value and the type are optional. You don't need them. Okay? So we're going to click OK. And notice it's a negative because this is a drain on your cash. So Excel calculates this based on a cash flow. So if you wanted to borrow $25,000 for 5 years at 4.25%, your monthly payment would be $8,854. That's hard. Yeah.
Something like
That's not right.
60, 25,000.
That's for the year.
No, 4.25 divided by 12, 60 months, 25,000.
25,000 would be divided by 12 also?
No, no, should be
that one.
12, 60.
I bet you have to put in the formula bar, wouldn't that have to have calculated in parentheses?
Well, it should. The
See,
payment is
put
the
the
rate.
parentheses beside on the other side
4.25
of 12.
divided by 12, 60 months, and you're borrowing $25,000. That should.
Put the parentheses on behind the 12.
Well, it's 4.25. Oh, I know what it is. Sorry. Jerome. What's that really?
0.
Thank you for somebody who said. Okay, 463.
There you go.
Okay. The problem is.
Well, I was about to have a heart attack.
Well, hypothetically.
Send that Mercedes back, right?
That's right.
I'm trying. I just want to try this just for my own sake. Okay. What I didn't do the first time, I didn't put percent. So you can either do 4.25 and use the percent, or it's got to be 0.0425. Okay, all right, my problem. But again, to use the function, it will always tell you what particular values you need to use. Okay. Remember you talked about. Okay. Remember I did equal sign. It's a 1, so that means it's a positive. Okay. If I go over here and I use this and I put in a negative 500, okay, it's going to become a -1. And if I go up and I make this a 0, the value is going to be 0. So
Now, tell me that again.
remember you said something about
Oh,
sign?
yeah.
Okay, so if I'm using the function sign, which again, you've got to have a reason to do that though.
Right.
You know, what are you going to do if it's 0? What are you going to do if it's a negative? What are you going to do if it's a positive? And if statements, again, kind of go into another section. But if you're doing any type of a function, or if you want to look at any type of a function, then this particular one is going to give you just about anything that, you know, about anything that you want to look for. And if I go back down to, I mean, if you're helping your kids with homework and you want the square root, okay? I mean, basically, you can get a function that returns the square root of a number. So if you're thinking about something, go into the functions, just scroll down, and you can take a look at a lot of these that again, it's going to give you some values. Okay? Other questions?
If up at the top under the sum, I think there's a drop-down menu. Is one of those items list number of items or something?
Count numbers.
So if you didn't have numbers, but you had something in text, either names or maybe it's not, maybe it's dates.
Yeah, you can't use this one. You have to use a function called count A, and count A will count text. Okay, so if I want to, over here, if I want to count these values, okay, or count the number, all right? So if I do number of types of expense, okay? All right, if I try to use the count function, which is just going to count numbers, if I try to use the count function and I scroll over this until I get all the expenses, and I click my check mark, I'm going to get a 0 because count is only going to count the numbers. Okay. So I'm going to delete that, and I'm going to come over here. Counts the number of cells in a range that are not empty. If you do count, it will only count the number in a range that contains numbers. Count A will count anything as long as it isn't blank. Okay? And what you're going to do again is you're going to go from B21 up to 11 and click your check mark. And now there's 11. Okay? So if it's text, you need to use the count A function. If you want to count numbers, you can use the count from over there.
What if it were dates? And again, you wanted to count the number of cells that are not empty?
Okay, there's a count blank. So if you want to count, you want to count the ones that are not empty. Okay, you can use the same thing. You can do count A.
Even though it would be numbers as in dates?
Yeah, it doesn't count. It's going to count. Okay. And actually, we're going to go to one we can test that if you want to.
Is everything about Excel on that screen?
You mean is every function?
All of it?
Sooner or later,
All
yes.
of it?
Yes. Sooner or later, anything you want to do is accessible from one of those tabs.
Right, but that's all of it right there.
Well, once you go through every ribbon and every tab, yes.
Right.
Okay.
And all those headings, those are all the headings that there are that exist in Excel. There's nothing page after page after page.
Well, once you get to here, like data, and then if you want to take a look at subtotals, then you're going to get another screen that says, what do you want to do? I mean, there's different, you're always going to be drilling down.
Right.
Yeah. But
everything across is up there.
yes.
Okay. Good.
Yeah. Now, if you're into developing, there's some things you can add to it, but that's if you're going to be writing your own code or writing your own macros or your own Visual Basic code or something like that. All right. Okay. Anything else? We're going to move to a different spreadsheet. That's okay. Great. Okay, little trivia here. If you look where, this is ice cream supply, and we have flavors and types and customers, and then we have a quantity, okay? So this particular spreadsheet I've had around for a long time. Again, and somebody had asked about different versions. Notice at the top, it has compatibility model. So again, I mean, I've had this one around enough that it was actually one of my older files that I've used, okay? Works fine. Again, it's just going to tell you it's in compatibility mode, okay? Nothing that you can't do, okay? Doesn't prohibit anything. All right, in the date column, does that look like a date to you? Okay? All right. Internally, Excel doesn't store dates as June 6th, 1999 or whatever, okay? Internally, the way that Excel does a date is it zeroed in on one benchmark, and that benchmark is January 1st of 1900. And what it does is it calculates the days since then. So internally, a date is stored as the value since January 1st of 1900. Okay? Now, the reason it looks better to you is once we do that, or once you do that, and again, all I did was take the formatting off so you can see. I'm going to select all the dates. And then very quickly up here, I can go and I can format this so it's a short date or it's a long date or whatever you want. We'll do a short date. All right, now notice again, this isn't wide enough to display. There's nothing wrong. It's just saying I can't display this particular column right now or all these values. So if I double click, okay, then it's going to come up. Now this is a little too wide, so this is one time that you can also click and hold, and then you can drag back. So you can also change the width by dragging, and again, it just depends on how wide you want a particular column. But internally, the date is stored as a number, okay? Just so that you know. All right, so again, what we have is we have some dates. We have the flavor, we have the type, we have the customer quantity. All right, if I'm looking at this again, and again, just kind of at a glance, what would be something that might be useful? This is all mixed up. What would be something that would be useful, and not sorting, we've learned we can sort, but what would be useful that we could do here? What would be something that you look at this that you'd like to know?
How do you move your data columns to be shown when you're past the point on the page where they're visible?
You want the headings to stay in place?
So they're visible when you go past. Like now they're gone.
Right. Okay. What you do is you go up to View. Or you're going to put your cursor where you want the information to not move. Okay. So I'm in location A4, right?
Okay.
See where I am?
Right, but you need to be in the one above it, wouldn't you?
No. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to View, and I'm going to go to this option that says Freeze Panes. And notice it says keep the top row visible. Do you see that option, or can you read that okay? So under View and Freeze Panes, it says keep the top row visible. So if I click this, okay, and then as I scroll, oops, let me go back and freeze the panes. Okay, sorry, instead of keep top row. If I freeze the panes, as I scroll down, and notice that row 3 is staying constant, but then anything beneath it is moving. Okay?
So you don't have to highlight, but just the one
You
below
don't,
it.
yeah, you don't have to highlight anything. You just put your cursor where you want it to be.
Okay.
And as you do that, again, and then there's a line beneath 3. So if you just wanted one, it would do the top row again. If you want something other than the top row, you have to freeze the panes. And then when you're finished with it, you unfreeze it, and then you're back to what you have. But again, to freeze the panes, all you need to do is put the cursor where you want the first data to continue to scroll or to continue to show. And it's under View, and under View you have the option to freeze panes. All right, let's say that what you want, and notice that we have 2 different types. We have low fat and we have traditional. All right, what if you want to see just traditional? Okay, would that be something that might be of interest? Okay, all right, so I'm going to click on that one value. Okay? So I'm it doesn't matter which value or where it is, I'm going to click on traditional. I'm going to go back to Home, and now we're under Sort and Filter. I'm going to click the filter button. All right, and then under the filter button, I'm going to click down on type, and you're going to click traditional. Okay, that's one way. So we're going to, under the type, it gives me two choices. I'm just going to put the check mark in front of traditional, and I'm going to come back and click OK. All right, and then if I look,
Will it have known everything that's in that column when
Yes.
you had those two choices?
Yes.
If I had 6, it would have shown 6 right there.
if I had, instead of low fat, if I had 0 fat, low fat, traditional, yes, every choice is there. Yes, okay? So, and notice over here, you haven't lost anything. Notice the row numbers stay where they are. So notice that in this particular case, we go from 40 to 43, we go from 45 to 47. So that's the row number where that data is actually located. Okay? So again, if you want to, again, very quickly say, just give me I'd just like to see all the traditional. And then again, if you wanted to print that, when it prints, it will just print what's there. So again, if you want to very quickly do something like that, that's an easy way to get there. Again, to remove it, if I go back and I do select all. Now another way that you can also do it, this is by turning on the filter. I can also right click it. I can go to filter, and then I can filter by the cell's value. So if I right click, I get the option to filter, and then I get the option that says to filter by the cell's value. So if I click that one, and again, this time I'm on low fat, I'm going to get the low fat. And again, notice that the values reflect the actual row that data is in. Everybody good with that? Does that give you a value? That give you something where if you're looking for a particular subsection of the spreadsheet, okay, that's an easy way to do it. Again, it's called
So what if I want to know how much cookies and cream, how much mint, how much vanilla got bought total?
Okay. I'm sorry, say that again. How much cookies and cream, how much?
Various flavors.
Okay.
How much of it, who was buying that together?
Okay. All right. Let's take this. Take the filter off. And actually, I'm just going to remove the filters. Okay. All right, we're going to look at something, and what came to mind when you mentioned that, again, is something called subtotal. All right? When you're going to do it, how do you want to look at it? And you basically just now said, I want to look at this by flavor. True? Okay. When you're working with subtotals, and if you're going to work with subtotals, the first thing that you have to do is sort it by the data value that you want to work with. Because what we're going to do is we're going to set this up so that we wind up grouping all the different flavors. So the very first thing on this particular spreadsheet that I'm going to do is I'm going to sort it by the flavor. So I'm going to have my cursor somewhere in the flavor column, and I'm going to go to my sort, and I'm going to sort A to Z. All right. And then that's going to put all of the flavors in alphabetical order. All right? Everybody good with that? Because that, and again, the first step to do a subtotal, you have to sort. If you don't, your data gets crazy. All right, under data, under the data tab, and this time you have to go to the data tab. It's not on the home tab. But under the data tab, there's a subtotal feature. And subtotal tells you that it's going to quickly calculate rows of related data by inserting subtotals and totals. Okay? So we're going to go to the subtotal function. Oh, and actually, it's a whole window. All right, and this, if any of you have done subtotals, you know this goes way back. Okay, this has been around for a long time. At each change in, you're going to use some function, and you're going to use some value there that you want to either add or count or whatever you want to do. So in our particular case, we want to base this on the flavor. We are going to sum it. You can do the average, you can do the max, you can do the min, you can count. Again, there's lots of different things that you could do in this particular case. Sum is what we're going to do. and we're going to sum it to the quantity. So again, we're going to look at the quantity over here. Again, this could be gallons or cartons or whatever. We're going to put the summary below the data, which is fine. Okay. So in this case, we've sorted it. We've put it in order like we want it. We've told Excel where do we want to see the totals and what total do we want to see. Okay. That's how subtotal works. Right. I'm going to click OK. All right, and then what happens, can you see from the back?
Yes.
Okay. All right, then what happens is it's going to list every incidence of the different flavors. It's going to give you a total, and then the total will be over to the right. Okay. And as you scroll down, what you will see is, oops, see our pound sign, pound sign, pound sign? Okay, we need to expand this just a little bit. Okay, so the grand total overall is at the bottom, and then the individual totals are as you go up the particular spreadsheet. All right, now subtotals do one more thing for you. Notice over to the left, you've got 3 extra little areas here. Do you see that? 1, 2, and 3. All right, what this is going to do is we can collapse it so that we only see the totals, and we can collapse it so that we only see the grand total. So over to the left, 1, 2, 3. What we're going to click on is, excuse me, 2. And 2 collapses it down so that you only see the totals. Again, what you're going to see is these are all the rows where the total is, and anything in between, excuse me, is where the data is. Okay? So in this particular case, if you don't want to see the individual data, you can collapse it and you only see the totals for the different flavors. Okay? And if you say, well, you know, I'd like to see cookies and cream, what's the breakdown, what is the detail? The plus sign over here, if you click it, will only expand that particular section. So if for some reason you're interested in something detailed, very simply you can click it. If you don't want it, you click the negative and it will go back and it will collapse it down again. Okay.
How could you get the quantity column to be in ascending order?
Over here?
Yes, ma'am.
In this particular case, you can't. Okay?
Cannot.
Because you're basing it on the flavor. This is the total for here. Now, what you're saying is, all right, now I want to see which of these are the best or my highest seller.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Well, I'm going to give it a shot because I've never had that question. It will do it. Excellent. Okay. So what it did then is it took this and all I did was click the Z to A. So if I undo that and go back, so then again, over here under the sort Z to A, and that's going to give you your highest to lowest. Again, it maintains, you can expand this so that you can see what these particular ones are if you're interested in that. Good question. All right, and then if I do a 1 only gives you the grand total. So 1 will give you the grand total, 2 will give you the totals only per type, and then 3 goes back to the detail. That help?
Fantastic.
Okay.
Where did you click to get to the subtotal up on the top? Is it the home page?
No, it's under the data tab.
Data
You have to go to the data tab, and see your ribbon bar may look a little bit different, but under the data tab on the ribbon bar, if you do subtotal, then subtotal will, and it will always bring up that window where you can then go in and set your breaks.
Question about something you did earlier.
Okay.
You did the freeze pane to keep the column 3, or row 3, excuse me, row 3. What if I wanted to keep row 3 in column A? both rows.
You just make sure you click to the right of the column and one below the row.
Okay, and that will freeze both.
That will freeze column and row, yes. I didn't have a column I needed to keep,
Right.
so I didn't have a way to do that.
So, just so I get this straight in my mind, so you freeze a column for what reason?
So it's not scrolling off the page.
So if those were expenses, it was along with, I want to switch the columns in my information.
If I want the column to stay constant, but I want July, August, September to stay where it is, I'm going to click in location B5, and then I'm going to go up to view. I'm going to freeze the panes. All right, and then if I scroll down, July, August, September always stays in view. And even though we don't have any data, if I scroll over, okay, the column stays in view.
Question, when you get ready to print that, when it goes to page 2 and 3, will it also print those at the top?
This is all display, has nothing to do with printing. Printing takes there's a different feature you have to apply to make it print the rows and columns.
So we can ask about that next time.
Yes, you can, yes. Okay, again, subtitle was a good question. Did that answer what you were?
It was wonderful.
Okay,
yes.
all right.
Just
Again, if you've done what you want, you're finished with it, under data, subtotal, you can also remove them if you don't want to have them sitting there. So again, you can remove them just by doing remove all. All right, the only other one I want to bring in for right now is have you heard of conditional formatting? I mean, I know you can format, okay? Conditional formatting will let you format values so that they come to view very quickly, okay? So what if in your expenses, and I'm back on the little income and expense, what if under your expenses, what if you wanted to know right away if any expense exceeded $200, okay? So, and again, this is visual, okay? It's going to print also as long as you have color printers. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is select the values that I want included. So you can include as many or as few as you like. But in this particular case, I'm going to select that particular range. I'm back on the Home tab. So back on the Home tab, there is a feature called Conditional Formatting. And if you click it up here. All right, and there's all sorts of different things you can do, but we're going to look at the one that says Highlight Cells Rules. And if I move over and I point to Highlight Cells Rules, then what I want to look at is I want to look at something that's greater than, and then I tell it what I'm looking for. Okay? So I'm going to do 200. And then you have the option, how do you want it to look? You want light red fill with text. You want green. Do you want to do a custom? And in this particular case, we'll do green fill and dark green. And click OK. All right, now keep in mind, my criteria was anything over $200. So if you want to set up a spreadsheet, you can apply conditional formatting. And then again, it's something to very easy look at. And again, keep in mind, this changes anything that changes the value. As soon as I change this value, it's going to be formatted. So you can set up a spreadsheet, whether there's numbers there or not, go ahead and put in your conditional formatting, and then as people enter values or whatever, very quickly you can see what you're looking for. So you can set up greater than, you can set up less than, So again, conditional formatting allows you to bring to the front very quickly whatever value meets the criteria or exceeds the criteria or whatever you have set up. Okay? Good for budgets, good for expenses, you know, anything where you want to see something very quickly, or at least see the results very quickly. Is that something useful? Okay. All right, what questions have I not covered, or what questions do you all have? Actually, I have more, but this is a good place this is probably a good place to stop.
So what if I wanted to turn that into a balanced scorecard and say anything over 200 show in green, anything less than 50 show in red? Can you do both at the same time?
Absolutely. I'm going to come back up and do the same thing. On this time, I want it to be less than. Again, you set the value, and we can come over and we can go into custom format and bold it. We can make it. So it's up to you. You know, you can put a background, you can do the color, you can bold it, italicize it, whatever formatting you want to apply. So yeah, in this case we have two sets of rules. If it's less than 50, if it's greater than 200. Okay, good question. Yes?
How do you merge two columns? So if you have a column with first names and a column with last names, and you want to merge them into one, concatenate?
You have to use concatenate. It's a concatenate function, and basically it's under functions.
Okay.
And it goes in and says, okay, click whichever one.
That's all you do is
click.
yeah.
Okay, folks, I think you're going to be back for intermediate in a few weeks. But thank you so much to Nancy. I learned a lot today. Thank you. We're kind of on our summer schedule, so the next class will be July the 20th, and it will be Facebook versus LinkedIn for your business. Sandy, can you tell me who that is?
Cindy Hagman.
Cindy Hagman will be presenting this, and Cindy Hagman is a marketing specialist. If you've seen her before, that's a class you won't want to miss. But I have learned a lot today from this Excel class, and I'm thrilled that Nancy came and helped us out today. Thank you very much. Please fill out your forms, and I think I gave everybody an Excel cheat sheet that Nancy prepared for us. So again, let's give Nancy a big hand.